still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell, coast to coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We've got a lot of NBA to cover, and wouldn't you know, a monster upset as one team in the NBA is headed to the Eastern Conference Finals. A huge surprise. Also, we'll recap the Western Conference as well, go over some Major League Baseball, not to mention the PGA Championship is coming up this week. We'll have a preview of that as well, and give you the latest in sports wagering on the ice and everywhere else in the world of sports. But let's get started with the biggest story in sports of yesterday. If it wasn't Pete Rose, I kind of think it may have been Pete Rose, but I digress. We'll get to that later. Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics underwent Achilles surgery. Not only is he out for the remainder of the playoffs, but there is some serious doubt as to whether or not he'll suit up for the Celtics even next season. Remember, the NBA season begins late October again this year. If he misses a full year, that certainly puts his future and the Celtics' future in doubt. Their immediate future is trying to get a win against the New York Knicks. They're down 3-1 in the series. Tatum has been the best player on the floor, at least on the Celtics side, maybe Brunson on the Knicks side, but bad news for the Celtics moving forward, no question. All right, Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder appear to be headed toward a 7-game series, right? I mean, this has got to go 7. The Thunder did not cover last night, the 10.5 points, but they did beat the Nuggets 112-105. So now they're up 3-2 and headed back to the Mile High City where Denver's going to win, and then we're going to have a Game 7, right? SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 31.7 assists. Nikola Jokic, a monster game, 44 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. In fact, Jokic hit a 3-point shot to tie it with 1:30 left, but it was Oklahoma City all from there. Here's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander after the game on getting a win in Game 5.
Yeah, we had no choice. The game obviously wasn't going our way. And we always say, like, the answer is never like a hero play or anything out the ordinary. It's being who we are. It's trusting each other. It's playing with all 5 on both ends. And whatever the problem is, we can fix it with the collective effort and not a single effort. And that's all we tried to focus on when it wasn't going our way. We did enough to get a W.
What's been, with the last couple fourth quarters down the stretch, and if you guys are in the same position on Thursday, what do you guys have to do to to get to the
better
finish
communicate. I think all around offense and defense, get to our spots and execute. I felt like we got some good shots at the end. I just felt our defense wasn't up to par. So especially closing minutes of the game. So I think it just comes down to a little bit better execution and not giving up wide open shots, just kind of putting out contests, make them have to do something else or whatever, work for it at least. You know what I'm saying? So I think we could just do better in that regard.
The Indiana Pacers, meanwhile, are one series away from the NBA Finals as they await the winner of Boston and New York. They did it last night. Indiana goes to Cleveland as a big dog, wins outright, 114-105. They're back in the Eastern Conference Finals again this season. Break it up for Rick Carlisle and company. They've been great. Tyrese Halliburton, 31 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. Donovan Mitchell, 35 points on just 8 for 25 from the field. And made a lot of free throws, but didn't come through there in the clutch. Boy, it would seem like Cleveland had a clear path to get to the finals. Didn't get it done. Here's Rick Carlisle on going on the road and taking care of business.
Winning a closeout game on the road is extremely difficult. Cleveland threw a hellacious game at us. We were down 19. And, Ty's run of shot making in the second quarter got us back into it. And then, we just had a lot of guys that played extremely hard, and we just said, hey, let's hang in this thing, try to wear them down, and see if we can outlast them. And essentially, that's what happened. Toppin made some great plays at the end of the third. Nembhard was clutch again. Ty was great. Pascal was great. And Miles had a couple of huge rebounds at the end. So, really thrilled for our guys, we'll see what happens next.
Just feel like for us, we had a lot of positives, but I told you during the year we're going to be judged off this. There's going to be a lot of talk. That's what comes with it. And we didn't capitalize. So now we got to use this as motivation. Everybody's going to write us off. Everybody in here. It's not personal. So what are we going to do about it next year? And, yeah.
One of the more disappointing outcomes of the playoffs has to be Cleveland's season ending like this. Meanwhile, in the National Hockey League, the Dallas Stars beat the Winnipeg Jets 3-1. As expected, and they're now up 3-1 in the series. They scored 1 goal in each period. Mikko Rantanen did not score a goal, but he did have an assist. Stars are minus 1250 to win the series, and now officially the favorites to win the Stanley Cup out of the West, plus 260. Here's Peter DeBoer on the win last night.
It just seemed like another really good third period. There was a chance you guys could sit back in a 2-1 lead, and it just looked like you were very aggressive coming out of the locker room.
Yeah, good third period like the other night. Listen, it's a good formula when you're playing from in front against that team as opposed to behind. They're a tough team to play from behind against. So, but I liked how we handled having the lead all night. We kept our foot on the gas. Huge power play goal. Big kill at the end there, too. And, I thought our 5-on-6 was excellent. When you think about we hold the record for giving up how many goals do we give up in that one game? Yeah, 3 in a minute. It's the worst 5-on-6 in NHL history we had late in the season, so we've obviously fixed that.
All right, so now the big story in Major League Baseball has nothing to do with any of the games yesterday. ESPN first reported the announcement from Major League Baseball and the commissioner, Rob Manfred, which essentially made Pete Rose and the players on the Chicago White Sox that had been banned for life from Major League Baseball eligible officially for the Hall of Fame. Now, one thing to be perfectly clear on. Major League Baseball doing this has nothing to do with the Hall of Fame's decision. All this did is made simply these players eligible as part of the Hall of Fame's rules. So essentially what the commissioner did was said, since Pete Rose has passed away, and all the players in that Black Sox scandal passed away, they can't be ineligible because they're no longer alive. So that's really the main explanation that you need to understand. Pete Rose could get voted into the Hall of Fame by one of those veterans committees in 2 years. We'll see if that ends up happening. All right, now to the Dodgers. Rookie Roki Sasaki's going on the injured list due to a right shoulder impingement, so bad news for them. Good news for the Detroit Tigers. How about getting this performance from Javi Baez, who's like found himself again in baseball? 2 3-run home runs to beat the Boston Red Sox 10-9. The Tigers are on a roll. Here's AJ Hinch on the reclamation of Baez.
I am so happy for that guy. I don't know if he's going to tell you how important it is to him. I don't know if he's going to tell you how much it means to him, but I know it does. And our whole team explodes, not just because we win, and not just how we win, but the fact that Javi's right in the middle of it is so awesome for this team and for Javi himself.
Mariners beat the Yankees last night 2-1. J.P. Crawford in an extra inning single in the 11th inning. Good pitching performance from Brian Wu of the Mariners. So the Marlins led last night late, but gave it up. The Cubs come all the way back, down 4-2 in the ninth to win 5-4. Nico Horner, Justin Turner had big hits in the ninth inning as the Cubs end up getting the win. And the Cardinals, who were winners of 9 in a row, were rained out, but they're playing 2 games today. So we'll see if they get that winning streak. We'll check in with Steph Noh of Sporting News on the NBA next.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
Brady Kannon, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. They've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career, made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the Manning.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of 18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's recap the NBA games from last night against the spread and sort of how things move forward with Steph Noh. He's back with us of Sporting News. Steph, so let's get into it here a little bit. Big spread last night. I mean, Oklahoma City was 10.5-point favorites. I got to be honest, here on the show yesterday, I said, hey, they make these lines for a reason. My guess is it's because Oklahoma City is going to blow out Denver. But, I mean, neither team seems to be blowing out anyone in this series. Only one game has that happened. Now, SGA did have 31 points in the game, but they needed them all. This was very close, right down to the wire here. So is it just, Steph, as simple as this, that Denver's going to go back home and they're going to win their game, and then we're going to get to a game 7, and we're going to be shouting up and down, wondering who's going to win in an exciting finish?
I hope so, and I also think so. I think you're right there. Denver's going to have the advantage with the altitude. We all know that. Usually it takes a couple days to adjust to that. That's why traditionally they haven't had a huge advantage in game 2s, but in those game 1s or, this game 6 scenario, I think that altitude is definitely going to have a factor, and I think they'll force a game 7.
Now, here's what's interesting here is that the Thunder are still big favorites to win this series. In fact, if you take Denver to win the series right now, Steph, you bet $100, you win $980. They're plus 980. And how about this too? To go 7 games is plus 240. It's like almost taking the money line of Denver in game 6. Very bizarre odds here.
I don't really understand that either. I mean, like I said, I think that the Nuggets have an advantage in game 6 just due to home court. I also, I've heard, I don't know if this is totally true, but I've heard that Michael Porter Jr. is going to get a cortisone shot before game 6. And if you look at how he's played after those games, right after he gets those shots, he plays a lot better. I mean, you can tell that he's clearly laboring. He's got like a huge, whatever, pack on his shoulder. So that could be a factor too. I mean, I really do think this is going 7. And Nikola Jokic hasn't gotten a lot of help. He hasn't really needed it. He was just completely amazing last night. He struggled a little bit more early in the series, but I just can't see him allowing his team to lose that game in Denver.
All right, so now let's get to the other series that is now complete. The Indiana Pacers are going back to the Eastern Conference Finals, and Steph, I got to say, they got a great shot to go to the NBA Finals at this point. They really dismantled the Cleveland Cavaliers in what was a close series, a lot of close games, I understand that, but Indiana is sort of doing the unthinkable here, changing the way that we view the NBA. It used to, like, generally speaking, it's 1, 2, 3 guys on a team that go crazy, and then everybody else just sort of picks up the pieces. This Indiana team is as well-rounded a squad that we've seen in the league in a long time. I mean, I don't know when the last time a team got to the finals by getting double-digit performances or even 20-point performances, but 4 or 5 guys, but Indiana's well on their way.
Well, that's kind of what we're seeing across the league. It's becoming more of a weak link league, meaning you're only as strong as your weakest link. I think they actually even talked about this in their post-game comments. So yeah, the Pacers are a very deep team. The Cavs on the other end, they just could not count on some of their bench guys. Ty Jerome, he finished 3rd, I believe, in 6th Man of the Year voting. He barely even played. I mean, they didn't play him until the second half of that game just because he had struggled so badly. They're trying to rely on guys like Isaac Okoro, he wasn't giving them enough either. And you look at the Pacers that are role players. I mean, Neesmith and Nembhard have just been brilliant throughout the series. You always know that TJ McConnell is going to give you a burst of energy. I think that's a huge advantage for the Pacers. And yeah, it's a surprising result, certainly. I mean, they were underdogs in this series for sure. I think they'll be underdogs against presumably the Knicks. I mean, I think the Knicks are probably going to close that out. But you just can't count this team out. When you look at how they've closed the year, I think they finished 40-17. They struggled in the beginning of the year with Tyrese Halliburton having back issues, but they've been the hottest team in the league.
So will that closeout be tonight, Steph? That is the question. As the Knicks take on the Celtics, no Tatum, of course. He's out for the year. Achilles surgery, maybe even out longer than that. So 2-part question here. Let's first start with the game tonight, and then let's get into where the future of the Celtics holds, because the Celtics are still favored even without Tatum tonight by 4.5 points. They've played without Tatum and won some games without Tatum this season too. I'm guessing if he played, the line probably would be 7.5, 8, something like that. I think that's kind of what he's worth. Total 208 tonight. What do you think happens?
I don't understand that one either at all. I mean, maybe it's like a sucker bet. I don't know. But if it was just Tatum that was the issue, sure, like maybe the Celtics would have a chance. But Jaylen Brown has not played very well in this series either. He's dealing with a bone bruise in his knee that is really hampering him. Additionally, you don't know what you're going to get from Kristaps Porzingis. He's been extremely ineffective. This mystery illness that he has, I mean, he just has not been able to make any sort of shots. His defensive presence also has been not as good as what the Celtics need. So I don't really see them overcoming all that stuff. Plus the emotional burden of, if you looked at their faces right after that injury, they all knew exactly what happened and they were all pretty down. It's going to be tough for them to win tonight.
All right, let's take a look real quick at a potential step-up player for the Celtics, Steph. These are all odds on the FanDuel Sportsbook in terms of point scoring for individual players. Brown, White, Horford, Holiday, Pritchard, and Porzingis. I'll run them down just so we keep that up there a little longer so people can lock in. 25.5 for Brown, 18.5 for White, 9.5 for Horford, 11.5 for Drew Holiday, Pritchard 13.5, Porzingis 15.5. Do you like any of those numbers, Steph? Do you have a prediction maybe on one or two that you think could go up or down?
Maybe the over on Pritchard. I think he's going to have to step up and have more of a scoring role. Tatum led the team in scoring during the regular season, so they're definitely going to need that extra punch, and he should play more minutes too with Tatum out there. As far as unders, I mean, I talked about Porzingis. He's just been so bad in this series, and you never know with his health. But yeah, I guess that would be my best under, and Pritchard is my best over.
Okay, fair enough. Finally, Golden State takes on Minnesota. I mean, look, these big lines have been really hard to cover. I mean, I got to keep it real here. I mean, my inclination is to think Minnesota wins and covers, but based on these games, they've all been close. Can Golden State even keep this game close, Steph, or is this over?
I think they can keep it close. I think they'll lose. I don't think Minnesota has been all that impressive, to tell you the truth. I mean, they should have been beating the Warriors by a ton of points given the lineups they were running out there. I mean, it's the other night, Steve Kerr played 14 guys and like by the second quarter. So yeah, I mean, I think the Wolves will win. I don't know if they'll win by 11.
All right, fair enough, Steph. Enjoy the games this week. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks so much.
SportsGrid sound off up next. How did the Mavericks get the #1 pick in the NBA draft? Our Kevin Walsh weighs in.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They've won 7 in a row. They've been dominant at Citi Field. Lindor's been insane. Pete Alonso's been raking.
You know, Brady Kannon, David Peterson, those guys have pitched really, really well. And when you put it together with that lineup, especially like you said, Lindor's been great. You know, they've got the makings of something very special in Queens.
Pharrell, coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career, made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the man.
The early line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. That's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. How does a team with a 1% chance get the #1 overall pick? Kevin Walsh will weigh in on that. Also, a new offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. And David Wright, once upon a time, playing on Team USA, the World Baseball Classic, weighs in on the new team captain on Team USA. That and a whole lot more on this edition of the SportsGrid Sound Off. Well, having a 1.8% chance, I guess, is better than none. How did this even happen earlier this week? The Dallas Mavericks, who unload Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers, a very big panned trade, to say the least, in the NBA, get a little bit of a bailout here via the NBA draft lottery. For those who missed it, they have the #1 overall pick in the draft thanks to those trusty ping pong balls. Let's check in with our very own Kevin Walsh as to how this happened and what it could potentially mean for the future of the Mavericks franchise.
This team, after losing Luka, once in a franchise history type, twice in a franchise history type player, they get a third. Dirk, Luka, Cooper Flag. The pillars of Dallas Mavericks basketball. Their all-time great was Dirk Nowitzki. And that baton was passed to Luka Doncic. Continuously, all-NBA first team, all-NBA first team, top 5 NBA MVP finishes, makes an NBA Finals, wins the Western Conference Finals MVP, and the most stunning trade this league has ever seen. He gets moved to the LA Lakers. And if you would have had to guess who ended up having a better May, Dallas or LA, that answer is Dallas. They win the Cooper Flag sweepstakes.
I mean, at this point, did we need to mention Rolando Blackman as one of the great Mavericks players? I'm just kidding, Kevin. Dallas, it's sort of interesting how they always seem to, start a new run, start a new era. It feels like when the Mavericks have been at their lowest, seemed like they always bounce back. All right, well, Ben Johnson, no longer the offensive coordinator, of course, for the Detroit Lions. He is now in Chicago. So the new offensive coordinator in Detroit with Dan Campbell, his name is John Morton. As they have their off-season workouts, Morton met with the media talking about how he has some very big shoes to fill.
I don't look at who was here. I just concentrate on what I've known has worked in the past. And let's see if these guys can. I'm not going to put something in if I know they can't do it. I mean, why do that? I mean, what they've been doing here has been working. I don't think about who called plays and this and that. I don't compare myself with other people. I don't do that. I just try to be myself. I try to learn through my experiences, and we kind of go from there. I mean, the most important thing to me is the relationship with the quarterback and everybody. That's what we got to do this offseason, so they kind of get a sense of how I feel, how I do things. I think that's important in how they see things. So that's the biggest thing. I don't get into that other stuff. All I worry about is this team and me, not who has been here.
I think right now the bottom line for the Detroit Lions is, as long as they get to the Super Bowl, no one is going to cry foul, but they better get there this year. Meanwhile, once upon a time in New York, specifically Shea Stadium, then Citi Field, David Wright was the captain of the New York Mets, played at the World Baseball Classic as well. Made a return to Citi Field yesterday and is a spokesperson for prostate cancer and hosting screenings, by the way, going on yesterday. So really good job by him doing that. Was asked about Aaron Judge being the new captain of Team USA.
What do you think of Aaron Judge being assigned the Captain America nickname for Team USA in the WBC?
Well, he's hitting like 900 with 100 homers through April, so I don't have any objection to that. I mean, I wish I could hit like that. Kind of cool how did I read that one of the was it Skeens? Did he? I mean, just really cool that now that not only are you getting, kind of those elite hitters that I feel like Team USA has, it's been a little easier to get commitments from, but now you're getting, those dominant top of the line starters. I mean, I think it's good for baseball. I think it's good for Team USA. I think it's good for the World Baseball Classic. And, I, for one, tune in, and I've been a fan of the World Baseball Classic from day one. So I think it's great for baseball.
Anthony? As a quick follow-up to that, I know you haven't been interested in doing anything like on field with the Mets for the most part. Would you consider doing something for Team USA at some point?
That's an interesting question. I've never thought about it, but as you know, I got 2 jerseys hanging in my office. I got my World Series jersey from 2015, and then I got my Team USA jersey. So
and your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side
DRS.
with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't
The
that
best
it wasn't as
quarterback
good as
prospect
Quinn
they've ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers' program?
the entirety of the time that
No.
Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick,
Quinn
Arch
Ewers'
Manning is
team.
not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong.
I
It
just
is
told
incorrect.
you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
where you
expect him to
double
have
down
decent
on a
season.
take
No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over a
not, though.
7th-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback
Stop
recruits
it.
in the history
Stop
of the
it.
sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young and
State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to have Pat Evans in house from Legal Sports Report. We'll dive into the latest on sports betting in Oklahoma. We'll see if there's any future there. We'll start off today's show with North Carolina. Pat, great to have you back here. Okay, so tax rates. You know, this has been a percolating story throughout the year, not quite as big as these prediction markets. By the way, I don't stop getting emails from these people with prediction markets about this stuff. You're getting them. I'm getting them now, too, by the way. I'll show you one. Let's go on North Carolina here. Do you think that there is a chance that this state ends up hiking their sports betting tax rate? It certainly seems like it's in the cards.
There's certainly a decent chance that it gets hiked because it has already passed the Senate. In the Senate's proposed budget, they take it from 18% to almost double that, and that's a significant amount for these sports books. But we haven't seen the House proposal. We haven't seen, any indication that the appetite's there, but if the Senate passed it so easily, the appetite might be there in the House. Now, what is happening is, of course, the sports books are sending, notices to their users to say, hey, reach out to the lawmakers, tell them you don't want this because this is going to lead to worse odds and fewer promos and the like. And so that's not great for the user to see that. And then Grover Norquist, the president of Americans for Tax Reform, has weighed in and said this is not a good policy. You shouldn't do this. So we'll see. This is by far the furthest one of these tax hikes has gotten this year, even though we, to your point, have been talking at length about them. Up in Ohio, Governor Mike DeWine said, let's double our tax rate from 20% to 40%. Lawmakers said, no, let's not do that. We did that 2 years ago to go from 10% to 20%. And that was premature. So let's not go even further. Similarly, in Maryland, Governor Wes Moore said, let's double our tax rate from 15 to 30%. In his proposed budget, lawmakers again said, nope, let's not do that. So it's been, certainly a topic of the year in terms of the sports betting policy. In Louisiana, a bill was recently introduced to also raise taxes, nearly doubling again. And both this North Carolina one and the Louisiana one would be kind of helping the university athletic departments in the state. So there is at least some good reason to do that, I suppose. But yeah, to your question of, is this possible? It is. It has passed the Senate. Now we just have to see what happens in the House.
Now let's get to Oklahoma here because, there was some real optimism, I thought, about a month ago that maybe this would be on the ballot later in the year and then 2026 would come. Maybe they would have sports betting and get Texas's act in order going too because, they border each other, but I guess not so much.
Yeah, I think just like Hawaii, entering this year, Hawaii and Oklahoma were both kind of states that were written off. They weren't real possibilities. Well, Hawaii, got to the conference committee, passing both the House and Senate, and were just a little bit different. and in conference committee, it just kind of fell apart. So that was the end of that Cinderella story. This one is kind of similar. I mean, entering the year, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt and the tribes, their contentious relationship kind of made us all think, there's no way this is going to get done. Well, 2 different bills passed the House rather easily, got to the Senate, made it further than it ever has before, any sports betting bill passing a Senate committee, and it got to the Senate floor. And there was hope because one bill was just a straight enacting bill that would have created the framework, put it in action. But Governor Stitt had promised to veto any bill, and I don't think there was, and I don't think anybody thinks there was support in the Senate or House to fully overturn that, because there are plenty of governor allies. The other bill, had that been vetoed, would have sent it to the ballot, and all Stitt could do is, try to put the referendum date at a weird time, so maybe to draw out fewer voters or the like. But apparently the appetite to get it on the Senate floor was not there by the time the session ran out. So, the session ended without any action, and another Cinderella story in the sports betting world fell apart. And it was, to your point, something that kind of grew all of an excitement there in hopes that it would pass. But of course, the session ended and it didn't pass.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so now let's get to north of the border here in Alberta. What could the latest be there?
Yeah, so this is kind of the one bright spot right now, aside from Missouri, which will launch later this year, in sports betting launches. I mean, Alberta will launch at some point soon, whether it's later this year or early next year. That is the question. Last year we had the minister who kind of leads that regulatory area say, we can launch sports betting in a similar model to Ontario, so completely open sports betting and online casino commercial market by the end of 2024. Well, 2024 came and went. Nothing happened. Finally, Dale Nally did introduce some legislation to the Alberta Parliament, and that did get through. And it is still fairly open. It does create the agency that will oversee and license the market. So that, agency has to now figure out the fine details of the industry and then, solicit applications, get them, work through those, figure it all out, and then we can go ahead and launch. Again, this is kind of a wait and see, obviously, of how long that's going to take, but it is certainly longer than the 2024 timeline that he initially put on it. We'll see. If it does end up anything remotely like the wide open market, the revenue's coming in now from there. I think there's more than nearly 50 operators of online sports betting and casino, so huge. And operators seem to be pretty excited about Alberta. They've long said that, Ontario has the best regulatory framework out there. A lot of sports betting company executives have said this. Well, now they're excited because Alberta is going to model it after that. And they're saying that the demographics are great. Well, it is, a tiny fraction of the size of Ontario. It is the highest GDP per capita province, and the highest spending GDP per capita on gambling at the casinos in the state. So there's a lot of optimism from operators out there that this could be a pretty, rewarding state to be active in.
All right, and then finally we get to the latest on the sweepstakes bills across the country here. Prediction markets, sweepstakes. It seems like these states that don't have legalized sports betting, just trying to find other ways to get people to engage.
Yeah, so I mean, this is, to your point, the prediction markets are the big one right now. But sweepstakes was the last one. And it is these companies finding these gray market loopholes through the laws to offer some sort of betting. And for lack of a better term, this one is dual currency, basically. And you use fake money to, bet and win whatever, play your games. And then you can exchange it for real money and draw it out. So a lot of regulators have said, no, you can't do this. A lot of legislators have come back and said, hey, let's figure this out. Let's tighten those laws and really, better control our gambling industry. A lot of states have let those kind of fall to the side. Mississippi was the first state to see it pass a chamber, but then it got caught up in the online or sports betting expansion discussion, and it died in a conference committee. Florida, your state, had a pretty decent push, but it fell apart. But there's a couple still active, like New York. What else? There's a couple others that are active that I can't think of right now. But the appetite's not fully there, I think, to concentrate on it rather than other more important issues probably.
All right, Pat, great stuff as always. Appreciate you coming on the show. We'll chat again next week. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks as always, Craig.
All right, Pat Evans here with us. By this time tomorrow, the PGA Championship will be underway. So we got to get those opinions in and those bets in potentially. For those of you who are interested, Brady Kannon is going to join us next. He's got his favorites to win, some long shots as well. And we'll give it to you next right here on NewsWire here on SportsGrid. So stay with us here on the grid. We'll be back after these quick messages, talking some golf and the PGA Championship specifically. Don't go away.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side
Yes,
by side
yes.
with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't
the
that
best
he wasn't as
quarterback
good as
prospect
Quinn
they've ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers' program?
the entirety of the time that
No.
Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a seventh-round pick,
Quinn
Arch
Ewers'
Manning is
team.
not that good and not deserving of being first overall is
Yes.
asinine. It is wrong.
I
It
just
is
told
incorrect.
you he's going to be number one overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
where you
expect him to
double
have a
down on a
decent season.
take
No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a seventh-round
There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback
Stop
recruits
it.
in the history
Stop
of the
it.
sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young
State.
and Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
All right, here we go. PGA Championship week, second major of the year, and this is a big one. Last year was so exciting. I wonder if they can top it. Let's bring in Brady Kannon, who see if he can top some of his picks lately here. Xander Schauffele back at it once again, trying to win back-to-back PGA Championships. Let's take a look at the back-to-back PGA Championship winners of the past. It's a short list. Tiger Woods, and in the height of Brooks Koepka's PGA Tour career, he did it twice. So that is the question that we'll start off with, Brady. From getting your text and reading your columns, my belief is you do not believe Xander will win this one.
Well, I bet on him, and it's not often that I like to land on the defending champ because, as you have illustrated, it doesn't happen all that often. But I think this is a situation that is a bit unique where a couple factors are in play here. I think Xander's a little bit under the radar because, this is a guy that won two major championships last season. And he had injury, had a chunk of the season removed from his schedule this year because he was nursing a rib injury. Well, he's been back for a minute now. I believe the Players Championship was the first tournament where he returned to action. And if you look at his recent starts, he's done very, very well. That includes a top 10 finish, finished 8th at the Masters just a month ago. So if you look at what he's done the last 4 starts, I think he's about ready to fire. I also think this golf course, Quail Hollow, correlates to Valhalla, where he won the PGA Championship last year. Very driver-heavy golf courses. And also at Quail Hollow, the last 2 Wells Fargo championships, he's finished runner-up. So he's been very successful here. It seems to be lining up like it could be a good time for Xander. So I'm on him this week. Is he going to win? I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think, you've got 22-1 up there. I've seen plenty of 20s to 1. I bet him, a couple weeks ago when I thought I was being smart and took 16. But, hey, let's just cash the ticket, baby. All right.
Yeah. I mean, Bryson's another one you like. Let's take a look at the PGA Championship odds on FanDuel. Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy are right at the top, as they should be, plus 450 on both. Then DeChambeau at 7-1. John Rahm, who, I don't know, I mean, you're going to have to explain this one to me because it doesn't seem like he's playing his best golf at all, 18-1. Justin Thomas, 20-1. But, you're landing on Bryson, maybe a little bit on Xander, but you do have some other names that you want to review here. So I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, Bryson. I tried to stay away because I felt he was going to be so popular this week, and he is extremely popular this week, but it's because it just makes too much sense. This golf course, like I said, it's very driver heavy. It's probably one of, if not the most important skill sets of any golf course they play all year, Quail Hollow Club, where driving means as much, if not more than anything. And we know, one of, if not the very best driver of the golf ball in the game is Bryson DeChambeau. He not only hits it out there a ton, but he's also extremely accurate. And I kind of went with guys along those lines. Xander Schauffele is also tremendous in what they call total driving, or strokes gained off the tee, where you combine length and accuracy, which is obviously a very powerful tool. And it's why Rory McIlroy has been so successful here in the past. But Bryson, Xander, Ludwig Oberg is another guy that I'm on. That's probably his greatest weapon, is just a monster driver of the golf ball and precision accuracy. Another guy that finished top 10. Bryson, Xander, and Oberg all finished top 10 at the Masters last month. And then Joaquin Niemann, who, same thing, hits it a ton and is fairly accurate, and has won 3 times already on the LIV circuit. Out of 7 events, he's won nearly half of them. So I couldn't avoid him, got him at 30-1. And then after that, Craig, it was pretty much long bombs who kind of employ the same type of skill set. Jason Day, who's won here before at Quail Hollow. He's won at Torrey Pines, which is another one of those driver heavy big boy golf courses. Now, some people are speculating about possible injury. He withdrew last week. I think he's going to be okay. And if he's healthy, I think he'll contend. I took Tyrrell Hatton at 60-1, who's had a great year, just finished top 5 recently in Mexico, won back in January. I took Sungjae Im, who, has not been on my radar in a long time, but I got him at nearly 100-1. I think he can find 100 out there, which is quite a price for a guy that has been top 5 here at Quail Hollow before, top 5 at Torrey Pines twice before, and was the number 1 scorer on the international side when they had the President's Cup here in 2022 at Quail Hollow. So he makes some sense as far as course history. And then finally, a long bomb that I really like that you remember we landed on correctly earlier this year, again at Torrey Pines, is Harris English at 200-1. This is another guy that hits it long and straight and has a magical short game and has done very well at the best big boy golf courses in the world.
All right, finally, I love these head-to-heads, Brady. You got a few of them. So again, you got to check your sports books to see if they're available, FanDuel, DraftKings, or other places as well, because a lot of times I see these and then they're not always available. But you like Dietrich over Hogard, Oberg over Fleetwood, English over Mitchell, DeChambeau over Rory. I'm guessing DeChambeau Rory is available everywhere. You got to check the other ones, though.
Yeah, I would agree with you. DeChambeau Rory is probably available just about everywhere. Now, these are from typically the most universal selections. There's a few books that we deal with here in Las Vegas that make their own matchups that are not widely available. These do come from probably the widest available menu. So you should be able to find them. But just really some of the prices there. Dietrich's had tremendous, he finished fourth at last year's PGA Championship, has done extremely well at Torrey Pines. Højgaard is a little bit green for me. He hits the ball a ton, but he's not really that accurate. I don't know if he's ready for this stage. I thought the price on Oberg, I mean, Fleetwood I expect to do well as well, but plus 130 I thought was worth a shot. You know I like English. And then, yeah, I think DeChambeau's going to get the best of Rory. I would say that matchup is closer to a pick'em, but DeChambeau is a decent little short-priced underdog. I think is good value as well.
Yeah, maybe DeChambeau was on the verge of maybe even competing to win the Masters, right up until like the last couple hours. So I think that's a good call. All right, Brady, enjoy the PGA Championship. You're the best. Appreciate it. We'll catch up again soon.
Let's have some fun, man.
All right, PGA Championship this month, U.S. Open next month. We'll wrap it up next with some last licks. Don't go away.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never
They
does.
played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn
they've ever
Ewers.
got to Texas.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian
Why
made
would it be
very
Quinn
clear
Ewers' program?
the entirety of the time that
No.
Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a seventh-round pick,
Quinn
Arch
Ewers'
Manning is
team.
not that good and not deserving of being first overall is
Yes.
asinine. It is wrong.
I
It
just
is
told you
incorrect.
he's going to be number one overall. My whole thing was I'm
you're
buying
doing
him
your
because
thing now
I
where you
expect him to
double
have a
down on a
decent
tape
season. No, I'm
that
not
is
doing that.
incorrect
The
when I
best
show it's
quarterback
incorrect.
prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a seventh-round
though. There were
pick
two
who didn't even
perfectly
play
rated
good.
quarterback
Stop
recruits
it.
in the
Stop
history of the
it.
sport.
Quinn
Vince
Ewers couldn't
Young
even play at
and
Ohio
Quinn
State.
Ewers.
He couldn't even play at
Vince
Ohio
Young
State.
and Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Generally speaking, we have stayed away from this whole Bill Belichick girlfriend thing, but we are going to dive a little bit into this, hopefully for the last time. I really don't like doing it. New menu at the PGA Championship, and we'll also start off with a little NFL. So let's get cooking here. Time now for some last licks. Okay, how the NFL schedule will come out tonight. Officially, we'll know who's going where, and that's a win, and that's a loss, right? That's what we do when we get the schedule. But I think this is the biggest takeaway from the upcoming NFL schedule release. You could take it for what it's worth, my opinion. That's why we end the show with my opinion. YouTube is going to exclusively stream Scream 2, Friday night's Week 1 game of the 2025 NFL season in Brazil on September 5th to a worldwide audience on YouTube and YouTube TV. It's the first exclusive NFL game to be streamed live for free, and its entirety on YouTube. So why is this important? YouTube, folks, is free and just requires an internet connection. I mean, think about it. Amazon Prime, gotta pay. Netflix, gotta pay. In order to get CBS, Fox, NBC, you gotta pay your cable operator, right? In some way, you have to pay. I mean, there are people who don't have the internet and just have a phone connection that could literally watch a pro football game for free. So, is this the future? Will YouTube pick up on more games? The catch will be, get ready for a million ads. Get ready for ads galore, clickable ads during the game. Look, I'm all for it. I love the idea of streaming. And guess what? Our shows here are streaming too. But I do think that this is a trendsetter in the NFL. So we got Amazon Prime, Netflix, and now YouTube coming up here in 2025. Okay, so Bill Belichick, as you may know by now, and if you don't, he has a new girlfriend. I remember once upon a time when Bill Belichick was married and had a shop, like a sundry shop in Jupiter, Florida, and used to go to all the spring training games that I used to see him at. Well, I don't know what happened. I don't get into that stuff. And by the way, this is not even really a story that it's a sports story that we should be covering, to be honest. I think this is his personal opinion. What goes on in people's personal life is fine. But when it crosses the line is when a reporter asks him about his girlfriend and her relationship, not just with her boyfriend, but also with the university that he's getting ready to coach for. So I think that it's fair game to be able to talk about this, because a reporter yesterday at a media day was asked about Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, I believe is her name. And is she allowed on campus? You know, what kind of issue is she creating? Because there's a lot of rumors and innuendo that she may be a big part of what happens to North Carolina on the field as well. Here was Bill Belichick's statement that he made when he was asked about that question. He said, "That's really off to the side. It's a personal relationship, and she doesn't have anything to do with UNC football. I'm excited to get back in coaches' meetings and get ready for June and August. We start getting ready for the season." I have a question out there. Is it just possible that Bill Belichick is just smarter than all of us? And with this relationship that he's just, like, as they would say, completely just trolling us throughout this entire thing? Like, basically saying, you know, do your thing. Get this more out there. Yes, totally fine. Become cool. Become famous. I don't know. Because the whole thing is just so bizarre, I can't even keep up. That's as far as I'm going with the story today. Okay? Personal issue for Bill Belichick. Cross the line here a little bit with North Carolina. Stay tuned. College football season begins in August. PGA Championship begins tomorrow. I'll do this quick. New menu at Quail Hollow this year. It's Xander Schauffele. He's got his PGA Champions dinner menu all set. Of course, he was the winner of last year, so he gets to do it. Here we got on the menu, smoked goat cheese dates with an S, and pickled watermelon. What is pickled watermelon? I have no idea. I mean, this is like, talking about, me doing some National Hockey League game broadcast. I got no clue. Pickled watermelon. I mean, I'd try anything, but I've never heard of this one. So anyway, PGA Championship starts tomorrow. All right, coming up at 12 o'clock Eastern, more on pickled watermelon with Smiley Kaufman. He's up next at 12. 3 o'clock Eastern, we got Pharrell Coast to Coast. Stay tuned to that big night in the NBA, as always, tonight. Could it happen for the Knicks? We'll see. Front Office Sports, 6 to 6:30. And that is followed by Game Time Decisions, in-game live game day. And then Gabe will yell and scream about some bet that he made tonight on Sports Rage. So make sure you catch that as well. Thanks again to Brady Kannon for coming on, talking some golf with us. In addition, Steph Noh with some NBA, Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report, and those were our guests here on today's show. So I want to thank all of them. And for my director, Luke, and producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. It's going to be a fun day here at SportsGrid with all the NHL and NBA action and Major League Baseball action set to come. Hope you enjoy it all, and I hope you enjoyed the show. See you tomorrow morning.